I've said these words maybe more than any words in my entire life. It goes, I remember saying that one time on a call and somebody was like, that's what I want.
The end of a sales call is like a pressure pot with like those steam release valves. Elite closers, they know how to release pressure. Closers that I see struggle, they haven't understood that concept yet.
It's not that hard to get people to where they're like, they can do discovery correctly, they can pitch correctly. You say the same thing almost on every call. What's harder is the objections. So let's hit some objections. I want to think about it.
Okay, that's totally fine. While we're here, are you just open to talking through what's going through your head? Can you help me understand kind of like what's happening?
Yeah, it's just a lot of money and I've been burned before. I don't know if it's going to work. And, I just kind of want to think about it and do my research.
Yeah, man. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
I mean, it feels good. It's like for this amount of money, the last company didn't fulfill and some kind of like,
yeah,
I'm just kind of skeptical.
For sure. What about it is feeling good right now? What are the parts that are feeling good?
I mean, like, I do agree with what you said earlier, like implementing stuff the way you said, I could see how it's different. And so like everything you said is good. And if that's what actually happened, it would make sense. It's just kind of like a little bit of a hesitation to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that makes sense. What happened when you got burnt? What was the situation there?
I like paid an agency and they said they were going to do all this stuff. And at the end of the day, like it took forever to execute and then like it didn't work. I just got bad leads. We had to part ways.
Yeah. Let's say as a hypothetical, everything I laid out happened in the exact way I laid it out in the exact timeline.
Yeah.
If we could draw that as a hypothetical, where would you be at with this?
I'd probably triple my business.
Okay. Where would it take you out of 10 in terms of like actually wanting to take the steps to do it? If hypothetically everything happened the way we talked about it.
If everything happened the way if everything happened the way you said it's going to happen, I would be a 10 out of 10 on it. I'm just worried about something that burned me in the past.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm going to like guarantee you the outcomes are going to happen because that would be naive. Like we are in a market that has conditions and things move and circulate. But there is like a bottom rung to that, which is you should 100% feel sure that the deliverables and what we're going to do on our side are going to happen. Like I agree with you on that. Is there anything else besides like the worry of like, are these guys going to do what they say? Is there something else you're kind of processing through?
No, I mean, that's just it. Like if everything happened the way you said it's going to happen, it's obviously a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, can I level with you on a thought?
Yeah.
Like the deliverables is easy. It's going to be in the contract. You'll have it contractually guaranteed that we're going to do the deliverables. A company like ours doesn't get to work with people like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Grant Cardone if we don't deliver. Like you would know if we're not delivering because you would see it everywhere. And so it's pretty easy for us to make sure that the deliverables happen. But I also want to make sure that you actually feel good about working with us because a big part of those outcomes happening or not is whether you're ready to get over the past burn and fully commit with us. And that sounds like I'm trying to pigeonhole you into something and I'm not. Like I'm genuinely wanting to make sure that you feel internally ready to like move forward with growing the business. So where are you at with that?
And I want to move forward and grow the business.
You sure?
Yeah.
Can I tease you a little bit?
Yeah.
Do you want to let the past burn stop you from making change in the future?
No.
I don't think you do either. Well, dude, let's just go ahead and get everything signed and get going. Cause man, like bro to bro, if you let the past burn inform who you're going to be in the future and the decisions you're going to make, you're just going to stay stuck. And you know that. Doesn't change that it's hard, but I don't think you want to let past burn stop you from achieving things in the future.
Nice. That's good. What about spouse?
Dude, I love the spouse one.
What was that? Sounds really good. I love it. I just want to talk to my wife.
Is she home?
Yeah.
Will you go grab her?
Well, okay. She's not home.
She's not home. Can we call her right now?
Oh, she won't pick up.
Huh. Okay. Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Is this like man, she's going to divorce me if I say yes and kill me thing? Or is it like you two wanting to make sure that you're on the same page and she respects the
It's more of a
decision?
same page thing.
Yeah. Have you two talked through this up to this point?
She knows I want to grow my business, but she doesn't, she just knows on this call and
Yeah.
about to spend this amount of money.
Is she your business partner?
No,
Okay. So she's not involved in business operations.
no.
Is she like business consultant, keeps you on the rails, make sure you don't do anything dumb?
No, it's just my wife.
Okay. Help me understand what kind of you're looking for in her approval. And I know that sounds like an asshole question, but if she's not a business partner, she's not a consultant, I'm just trying to better
I don't
understand
really need
where
her
she fits in.
approval. I just need to like let her know how to respect.
Yeah. If you move forward without talking to her, what would happen?
She would just be like,
She'd kick you out?
babe. Well, no, but she'd be like, babe, we were supposed to talk about these types of things.
Yeah. Have you messed that one up before, bro?
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, it's just like I bought stuff and then, we just want to have an agreement that purchases over a certain amount or, that we just talk to each other about it.
Yeah. Are you open to a middle ground solution?
Yeah.
Before I present it, shoot it with me straight. Do you actually want to do this or are we?
No, I want to do it.
You're 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, there's an easy solution to this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put down a $2,000 deposit now. It's a refundable deposit. And then what I want to do is schedule a call with you and your wife and me so that she can meet me, meet the company. And I'll actually onboard you into the curriculum so that she can see what it is that you invested into. Because if we don't do that, I'm just another guy pitching you another thing. It's going to depend on where she's at on the day and where her mood's at. I'd rather her be able to actually see the thing that you're potentially investing into. So let's do the deposit now. I'll onboard you into the curriculum and then us three can jump on later tonight. But then she can actually see what it is that you want to invest to. And it's not a blind decision.
Mm-hmm. See, I like that one because I've used that a lot where obviously you're getting them bought in on, they 100% want to do it. Then it's, hey, do you need their permission or are you just letting them know?
Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, especially with this one, even regardless if it's permission versus letting them know, especially with a guy, you could just go to the refundable deposit. Hey, let's book the onboarding call with you and your wife.
Yeah.
And then we can both hop on and she can actually get onboarded with you into this thing. So she's just as bought into it as you are. And then she can also see what you've actually invested in so that it's not a scam, it's not BS, whatever. And if she actually hates our guts and thinks the onboarding is the worst thing ever and is wondering why the heck you did this, we'll just send it back.
Yeah.
But if she feels really good, like you do, then you're already well on your way and you already have moved forward. But regardless, like you told me earlier, that the most important thing for you is not to let the last 5 years be like the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put down this 1K the refundable deposit. You can obviously, there's no risk in doing it, but for you, that's metaphorically drawing a line in the sand and saying that from here on out, things are going to be different.
Yeah.
So if I was willing to make that adjustment, how we regularly do things for you, would you be willing to move forward right now?
Yeah.
I like that type of stuff.
It's beautiful. And then what's beautiful about that is if they go, no, dude, I'm not doing that. Then you can take a deep breath. This moment is where most closers mess up because they'll like get pissed about it. Like the prospect's like, yeah, dude, I'm still not doing that. And the closer will get really tense off.
Yeah.
I would just take a deep breath and be like, man, can I ask you a personal question? Yeah. There's probably something else going through your head. And like, I'm not trying to prod at you, but we've been talking for an hour. From my end, it seems like everything about this makes sense for you. What else is going on? Like, will you just open up and talk to me about what you're thinking? And I'll like release pressure and open up a lot of space and just ask what's going through their head. And if I open up space and I'll ask gently a few times and they're just not willing to communicate, then I know I did everything I could to have a conversation with them. But even in that, it allows to zoom out and take pressure off and keep trying to get them to open up.
And I think one of the keys is if you could stay neutral and playful at the close, people will just be honest.
Yeah.
Whereas if you tense up because you're like, man, I spent an hour and 10 minutes and I missed my next call because I'm spending all this time with this person. Fuck you. You know, if you have that, then they put their guards up.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's like, hey man, well, like, just level with me. Like,
What's going on?
What's really going on? Like
Yeah.
earlier you said you wanted to do this. You said it sounds really good.
Talk.
Like, I mean, look, if you do it now or do it later, that's fine. But just to me, it feels like something is on your mind that we just haven't discussed yet.
Yeah.
And if we're going to work together in the future, I want to make sure we're fully aligned.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, we just have to be honest with each other. So what's really going on?
Keep adding cushion. Dude, your business is in such a good spot to grow right now. Like, seems like everything makes sense, but maybe I missed something. Like, what's going through your head?
Yeah.
What's going on?
If you're looking for a mastermind to take your business to 10 million a year plus, then you want to check out our 8-figure border mastermind. So after doing 100 million in total cash collected for my own companies, I've created a mastermind where I really pull back the curtain and show you exactly how I've done it. So I not only share with you what's working for us across marketing, sales, fulfillment, operations, finance for all of our different companies. At the same time, you can network with some of the top people in the industry and also listen to world-class speakers like Patrick Bet-David, Dean Graziosi, Neil Patel, Tom Bailu, and many, many others. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description and get more info.
What's another objection we should hit?
Another objection is that's way more than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good, but it's way more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, man. I'm curious, like, how are you thinking about it? Help me understand where you get to.
I looked into some other things. Usually this runs about 10K. Yours was 15. So like that just kind of has to make me think about it a little bit.
What held you back from going with the other ones? I'm curious.
Well, you know, I was just trying to kind of view all my options and see what else was out there and, you know, just see what all my options were.
Yeah. Well, I guess ultimately, how would you know if you did find the right team to help you?
It's a good question. I guess I would feel very confident that they could get me to where I wanted to go.
So it's actually really just about who's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
That would be the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to work with a team that has like impeccable industry credibility?
That's the goal.
Okay. Well, man, what about our conversation led you to feel like we weren't the people that could help you get there?
Well, I mean, I think you could. It just is a little bit more than I thought.
Well, is it about the cheaper thing or is it about working with the team that's going to help you get there, bro?
It's about working with the thing that's going to help you get there.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because dude, there's people that are cheaper than us. I promise. I can refer you to them, brother.
Yeah.
I'm happy to. But dude, can I just be your bro for a sec?
Yeah.
I don't think you need the cheapest thing right now. Like you're doing $100,000 a month. You want to get to $500,000 a month. Whether the investment's $5,000 or $50,000 relative to that goal, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like really, who cares? Even if I pitched you $30,000 and you got to 500, would you really look back and care at all?
No.
And so I don't actually think it's so much about the price as much as it is who's going to help you get to where you want to go. Can I ask you, the other companies that you've talked to, have they done the thing that you want to do?
Yeah. I mean, they're doing it with clients.
Do you know to what scale?
No.
Because that's a big part of it, man. Like there's a lot of people that have done it a few times. There's very few people who have done it hundreds of times, if not thousands. And to level with you, like they also might be good. Like I'm not saying you shouldn't work with them. I think you should go with the team that's done what you want to do the most amount of times and that you're the most sure can help you get there.
Yeah.
That might be us. That might be them.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I think I should go with the one that I think is going to get me there.
I agree.
It's like, it's so hard to role play a prospect when you wouldn't say any of this shit yourself. But the way I think about that one, which is like, there's a cheaper option. It's like, hey, great. So aside from evaluating which option you're going to go with, it sounds like you're going to do something.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of who, right? Great. So you're going to do something. You're just trying to figure out who it is. So let's just take price aside for a moment. Out of the two options, just which are you more certain between us and this other company? Who's the company? ABC. Okay. Between us and ABC, which just based on what we've talked about in this conversation, price and everything aside, is more likely to be able to get you there. Although I think it's you guys just a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. And I totally get that because I've never even heard of that company. And, we've been doing this for X amount of years. We've worked with thousands of clients. We've worked with people like this, that, and the other. So obviously we're going to charge a little bit more. So the real question really isn't about like, are we more versus them? And, are you going to spend $5K more? And is that going to be the big burn? You told me you wanted to get to $400,000 a month in your business. And you also told me that you think we're much more likely to get you there than this other person who's just $5K cheaper. So do you want to nickel and dime and go with the lesser option and jeopardize the success that you want and then eventually come back later anyways? Or do you just want to go with us and get it right from the start?
Yeah.
Because if we get you from 100 to 400, what's 5K?
Yeah. And dude, where most closers mess up is they're always trying to do this thing of like, I need to prop us up and I need to tear them down. Even with like the spouse, it's like, oh, I need to like move the spouse aside and like make them listen to me. I need to like move the competitors aside and show them that we're the best. But like last month I closed a STA client and at the end they were like, dude, we're going to have to let you know in a couple of days. We're talking to three other guys. And I'm always very chill at the end of the calls. And I was just like, cool. Who else are you talking to? And they told me the other two guys' names. And I was like, oh, yeah, one of them is brilliant. Like, I know he's brilliant. The other guy, I don't know. So I couldn't tell you. But like, man, you guys are limiting yourself. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, you're doing $100,000 a month and you're 25. Like, you thinking that it's working with us or this other guy who's brilliant at marketing is silly. Like, he's going to help you with your marketing and nobody else has done what we do at the rate that you want to do it. And you have to think through this in order of priority. Like, and I relisted what they need to do to grow their business. And I was like, so in order of priority, come work with us. And then in 3 months, go work with that guy also. Like, you guys are just being silly. And they were paused and they started speaking Spanish. There was 3 of them. And I just hung out with them while they were speaking Spanish. And we got to the end and they were like, all right, man, can you just give us a couple days? And I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, because that's silly. Like, we're all here together. Why could we not just make the decision? And they were like, well, dude, like I messaged you on Instagram yesterday. And I was like, yeah, so you're smart. I'm not following up with you in 3 days. Like, let's just decide right now.
Yeah.
And it was super chill like that. And they spoke Spanish again. And then they're like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. And the thing is, what you said about the closers try to bulldoze, what I try to teach people is, yeah, you don't want to because if you just are like crapping on this other company, now granted, there's ways you can just demolish the competitor. Like if you try to Google them and they have no website, you'd be like, yeah, it seems like a real decision. It's like, you're just like, this person doesn't even have a website. So that's who you're deciding between. They're like, and it just kind of seems dumb. Yeah. But let's say it is somebody legit. What I try to do is just educate them on the options. It's like, well, look, like, yeah, they seem like they're legit. You could definitely go with them, but I guess it depends on what you want. Yeah. Right. Like if you're looking for, it would depend on the situation, but if you're looking for XYZ, they would maybe be better. But if you're looking for somebody who has done bam, to bam, to bam, to bam, to bam, and who's the best, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you get it right the first time, then obviously we're going to be the better route. You know, it's also like, if somebody's trying to, let's say, decide between doing like a low ticket model and a high ticket model, and the person I'm pitching against is telling them to do low ticket to ascend to high ticket, and I'm telling them just to do a call funnel to high ticket, and this person's doing 150 grand a month. And instead of being like low ticket doesn't work, I'd be like, dude, low ticket's great. Now, what I would say for you guys is, from my experience working with thousands of clients and seeing companies just like yours, like case study 1, case study 2, case study 3, get to 800,000 a month. The way they do it is they go from 1 to about 4 to 5, 600 with a call funnel. They get their messaging right, their setters right, they get their sales team right, because you have to have all of that working anyways to be able to make the shift. So it's not that you shouldn't do that, but that's more for when you get up to here, and you got to make sure you make the decisions in a proper way of sequence. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah. I would just do it here for you guys, not here. Yeah. You know, and honestly, we're really great at low ticket funnels. And if I thought that that's what you needed now, I just would have pitched you that. Yeah. But you see how I'm like educating them on their options. I'm not necessarily diminishing the other. Because when you diminish the other thing, they're just what's in the brain. Oh, they're a closer. They're just going to say,
They're gonna
say whatever they got to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And for the salespeople, the world's a small place. And if you get in the habit of like talking shit, it'll come back. Quick, hilarious story. Do you remember when you were trying to close Josh Johnson on Traffic and Funnels?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Forever back in the day?
Yeah.
I had a sales call with him like 3 days before and was trying to close him into my program.
Right.
And I remember him telling me like, yeah, dude, I'm talking to Cole. I might buy this other program. And I was like, dude, you don't want to do that. And granted, I was 21.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you don't want to do that. Like, do you want to work with people that specialize in the agency space or like a general business coach? And he was like, well, yeah, I see that. And I was like, dude, they're general coaches. Like they're not going to help you grow your agency. And he was like, all right, dude, well, I'm still going to talk to Cole. And then I think he maybe like gave you that feedback and it like got circulated so fast.
And you got eviscerated.
Yeah, dude. And I felt like an idiot. I felt stupid.
Yeah, Taylor came after you.
Yeah, dude.
That is pretty funny.
But it was a good learning lesson for me. I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again.
So the question is do you ever get blank when objections come up? Like, do you ever just not know what to say? Well, a lot of closers do, quite frankly, and that's why they book follow-up calls. But the key is that, because I am very passionate about this. Closers have a process in discovery. Like they never forget what to say in discovery. They never forget what to say in the pitch because they train on that and they have a process to fall back on. You know, so like, what's the quote that you're not as, you don't ascend to whatever your thing is, you fall back on your training. And so, but what's funny is like they get to the close and it's just this cross their fingers after I drop the price, I hope you buy.
Yeah.
And then whenever they get resistance, then their cortisol goes up, their emotions get flushed, and then they like can't think, they go into fight or flight, whatever. So the key is that you have to have enough training to be able to essentially be able to always fall back on a process and objections.
Yeah.
So like, what's my process? If you say, I want to think about it, almost no matter what you say, the first thing I say is, hey, no problem. That's totally cool. Like, let me ask you this, just because we've been through a lot today. You know, I covered step 1, step 2, step 3 that we'd be implementing together. How do you actually feel about do you feel like, money and everything aside, that is what you need to get to that goal? And they'll usually be like, yeah, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, okay, great. So like money and everything aside, you 100% believe this will get you to XYZ revenue.
Yeah.
And that second, that's called a double tie down. That second tie down is the key because it's very strong. Like, do you 100%? I'm actually trying to get them to say no.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, I mean, you know, like at that point, it's just logistics. But I'm trying to get them to say no because they'll be like, well, you know, then it's, oh, I talked to this company in the past and it didn't work. So I'm just a little bit concerned about that. Gotcha. So if we just isolate that for a second, and really, like, outside of that bad experience, is that the only thing giving you pause to moving forward? Yeah. Okay, great. So now I know I have to cover that. Then I can come back to basically, are you certain it's going to work? Then I can move on to logistics. And then how am I going to cover that? The first thing is you go into discovery. Because a lot of people like, yeah, I've been burned in the past, so I just don't know about this. And then what's, you know, the terrible closer say? Oh, well, have you ever dated before? And then it's like, yeah. Okay, well, if your girlfriend broke up with you, would you never date again? It's like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? What you want to do instead is, oh, well, tell me about what happened in that company.
Yeah.
Okay, like what was the difference between what you thought was going to happen and what was actually implemented? And dude, I totally get it because we're put in places all the time where essentially we have to pick up the pieces after somebody overpromised and underdelivered. And what we found just doing this with thousands of clients, and it's totally just like your situation, is typically when it comes to one of three things. Either number one, that the process they implemented just didn't work. Like they serviced you well. It's just that what they tried to implement in terms of strategy was maybe outdated or not customized to your business or something along those lines. Number two is like the strategy was good. It's just the service wasn't. Like it took forever. They didn't support you in the right ways, etc. Or number three is like maybe both were good and like you just kind of fucked it up. Or like maybe you just didn't show up in the right way you should. So which one of those three do you think it was?
Yeah.
And then they're going to pick one. But the thing is they're going to pick number one and number two, most likely. And obviously I'm forcing them to diagnose it in a way I already know how to handle. right? So if they're like, well, yeah, it was the method. Okay, what was the method? They told me to do a webinar to get clients. Oh, okay, well, can I give you a little bit of feedback on that? They're going to maybe explain why webinars worked really well a couple of years ago. They're a little bit tougher to work now. And for B2B, straight to app funnels work way better.
Yeah.
Right. So you see how our method is entirely different. So wouldn't it make sense, given the service quality is the same, if the method is right, that you wouldn't get the same results than before? Right.
Yeah.
So like with that out of the way, like, do you really think this is going to work? Yeah. I guess when you say it that way, I do. Okay, great. So like, you ready to go? You ready to get started? Can I give you some homework? Go into the close, or maybe now we go into a financial thing.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to segment it that way. So I always
And it has to funnel. Everybody who watches this back should study how the questions funnel down.
Well, the funnel is basically I used to say there's 3 main objections, and I like to say that because it's just spiffy, but there's kind of 4. But the most important one is uncertainty, right? So the first thing you have to do is handle anything that's keeping them from being less than 100% certain that this is going to work, right? Because if they don't think it's going to work,
everything else,
they're not going to go talk to their wife and convince their wife if they don't think it's going to work.
Yeah.
They're not going to go transfer money from a brokerage if it's not going to work, right? So you have to make sure you get them in a place of like, no, I think it's going to 100% work. Then if they actually do that, if they really believe it's going to work, like truthfully actually believe, not faintly say it, not like, do you think it's going to work? Yeah, I think so. Oh, okay, great. Well, let's get you, no, it's like, I think so. Like, what's really going on? Like, do you think it's going to get you there or not?
Yeah.
But if they're like, no, dude, I totally think it's going to work. Then the 3 below that is really just logistics. We have timing, we have financial, and we have spouse, right? And then obviously they'll usually bring one of those up. But if they 100% think it's going to work, I funnel into one of the logistics, right? But if you handle a spouse without doing uncertainty first, you're actually handling a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
For sure. I think because I've closed B2C so much, the way I think about it and the way I teach B2C is like, we're either going to be supporting someone in making a decision or pushing them to make a decision. So like in B2C, the reason I start with like, well, how are you feeling? Is because like, there's a very real thing that I want to discern, which is, do they have a logistical thing that I need to work through, or is it just fear? And then once I know it's fear, I'm almost always going to then delineate, is this a prideful person or is this just a person who's fearful? Because if they're closer to like pride, kind of know-it-all, arrogant, I know I'm going to have to push them to make a decision. If they're just scared, they're going to need to feel supported to make a decision.
Yeah.
And so like if I'm talking to a single mom with 3 kids who's working full time, I don't want to like push her into making a decision because she's already stressed out by life. If she feels like I'm adding stress to her life, she's going to get off the call. And so I'll move much more into a line of questioning that's supportive. So it's, hey, can I ask you a personal question? And this is going to sound tough. Like, if we don't make some sort of change, like hearing you talk about your schedule right now, your kids, like, do you really want to like be stuck in this for the next 6 months? Well, no, of course not. Yeah. And like, this is extremely fucking scary for you. Like, I see that. Like, this is a huge decision. Yeah, it's massive. Well, I want you to know, like, I see that for you and I'm on your team. Like, not anything I say, this is going to be a big, scary decision in this moment. And like, that's not going to go away. But I need you to know, like, we're going to hold your hand through this process and that we have your back. Like, I'm going to text you from my personal cell phone. You're going to meet with coach so-and-so. I so deeply see the situation that you're in, and I know it's not easy. And when I look at what you want to do for your kids and for your life, like, I just want to help you get there. Like, will you trust us to help you start moving down that path? Like, will you please let us help? And it's very supportive. Let's help you make sure you know you're supported. Whereas with the farther end of the spectrum, the more like prideful, dude, I already blah, 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 very like out there energy. I'll have a much more direct line of questioning. That's like, dude, can I shoot it with you straight? Yeah. Okay. This is going to piss you off. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. Dude, you've been stuck for 6 years.
Mm.
Pause. And like, dude, I'm not trying to be an ass, but like, unless we acknowledge the reality of what's going on, we're not going to be able to change it. Earlier, you told me you want to get to 300 grand a year. If you're just leveling with me, is that going to happen if you're staying where you're at? No, of course not. So I guess the real question, dude, and again, this feels pointed, but it is the real question, is that goal actually real and meaningful to you? Or is it just a thing that we're talking about? No, it's real and meaningful. Well then, dude, you know what the right things to do are.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to do the right things? Yes or no? And that's how I've always kind of looked at it, is like, I'm either going to be pushing this person really hard to make a decision, and I'm probably going to have a 50-50 break if they're going to say fuck you and end Zoom, or if they're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to need to just stay in a remarkably supportive hand-holding frame.
Yeah, that's very, very good. I have like what I call the nervousness close, where what happens is a lot of times when they're like, no, I 100% want to do it. And you kind of get to the point and they just can't make a decision.
Mm.
And then you're like, well, what's going on? Like, what's coming up for you? And they're just like, like they don't know what to say. You can this is like, what I do is I give them the objection, which I'm like, oh, it just kind of seems like it's a little bit of nerves.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to say, oh, is it fear?
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was closing. Is it fear? They're like, it's not fear.
Are you just scared?
It's not fear. And I'll be like, oh, is it just a little bit of nerves? And they're like, yeah, it's a little bit of nerves. But like, look, the nerves are good.
Mm-hmm.
That means there's some weight to this. There's some meaning to it. Like nothing ever built in the world nothing ever great in the world was built by somebody who wasn't a little bit nervous at first.
Yeah.
So like the nerves are really irrelevant in this conversation. The real conversation is, who do you want to be? Like, do you want to be the type of person who can feel the fear and do it anyways? Or the type of person who lets that type of nervousness dictate their decision-making? Which is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's obviously this person. And then you can kind of go into more of the supportive or whatever frame. But I used to like visually, I visualize a lot of things. It's like if they don't, sometimes they just can make a decision because it is nerves. I just give them that objection.
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, oh, is it a little bit of nerves? Yeah, it's nerves. And then you're like, oh yeah, good.
Yeah.
Like that's I'd think you're an alien if you went a little bit nervous.
Uh-huh.
Like nothing ever great in the world was built by somebody who wasn't a little bit nervous at first.
Yeah.
I got that line from Taylor. I've just used it ever since for like 7 years. Like, when you're in sales, you just get a line from somebody and you're like, oh, no reason to replace the line.
Yeah.
It freaking works.
Mine is, hey, can I ask you a weird question? Does it feel like your head and heart are like playing tug of war right
pretty
now?
good. Yeah.
Like, and like, I'm only asking because I've been through this where like your heart is like, I know I want to do this, but your mind and your body is like, don't fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like you're playing tug of war. And they'll be like, yeah, it does feel like that. Yeah, it's heavy, huh? Yeah, it's super heavy. Well, which one do you think we should listen to? Your heart or your body that's freaking out? Which one do you think is going to take you farther? Well, probably my heart. Yeah, it's just an internal tug of war. Like your brain's trying to keep you safe. Your brain's yelling at you to not do it. You hear your mom's voice in the back of your head saying you're going to be a failure and this is bad. But your heart knows. Like your heart is the thing that lit up when earlier you told me about what it would mean to make 10 grand a month.
Mm.
That was your heart lighting up. And now your heart is like whispering at you like, hey, you need to do this. But every adult that you've ever interacted with in your head right now is like, nope, you're a loser.
Yeah.
So which one?
Yeah. Do you have any other spiffy lines that you just used for a long time? I have one this is more in the pitch and it still works. Like, I'll tell you what it is. So like when you're stacking so like a lot of times the way I pitch, I'll be like, hey, so the reason most people fail at X, Y, Z is because of this, right? And the problem, I'll do it like this. I'll be like, when it comes to X, Y, and Z, one of the biggest mistakes people make is ABC, right? And the problem with that is when you make that mistake, these things happen that are problems and ultimately ends in this consequence. So instead, what we do is feature which allows you to benefit and ultimately benefit of the benefit, right? So then when I get to the benefit of the benefit part, I can give an example if that seems too like esoteric. When I get to the benefit of the benefit part, one of the best lines is like, and then when you finally have this in place, what happens is now you have a business that's an asset that produces income independent of your time. I'm telling you, that little line, people go, yeah. Like, that little line, people freaking love that all the way back to 2017. Like I remember saying that one time on a call and somebody was like, that's what I want. Because everybody wants, like, it kind of appeals. It basically appeals to making money by doing nothing.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, like I want something that runs without me. And if you're selling to the coaching market, so then you have an asset that produces you income independent of your time. So then that frees and funds you to be able to speak on stages, spread your message, write books, and create content, which is probably why you got into this in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Freaking little
slaps.
Yeah. It's like little spiffy things that you get.
Yeah.
And it's funny is like when you're selling and especially you're a salesperson, you just like, you pick up these little things where you're like, oh, I said that and that worked really well. And then that kind of goes in the database.
Yeah. You're thinking about it in the shower later.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that one worked.
You're like, I got to use that one again.
Yeah.
Do you have any others of those?
Yeah. When I'm like transitioning from like kind of goals, current situation into what we call like pre-pitch.
Yeah.
That kind of area of the call, I'll do this thing where I like pull out and intentionally create some space. Like I'll slow down a lot and I'll say, hey, can I ask you a weird personal question? I like that frame, especially in B2C. Like, can I ask you a personal question?
Right.
Especially early on, because they're always going to have some degree of like, who's this person? What are they trying to get out of me? And so I'll use that frame a lot. And I'll say, I kind of had this thing for a while, and I have a sense you might have it too. And I'm just curious. But I had this like chronic thing for a while where I would describe it as like, I feel like there's this whole other version of me out there in the universe somewhere that's doing all these incredible things, but I couldn't figure out how to get to him. I know that's weird, but like, have you experienced anything like that? 10 out of 10 times they go, yeah, I've never been able to put words to it, but that is how I feel. And I'll say, what has that been like for you? Like, I'm curious, what has that been like for you?
Yeah.
And they'll stop and they'll go, well, I'm 32 now. I've always known I was going to figure something out and be successful. I just I went to college and did the thing and I haven't been able to figure it out.
Right.
And I'll go, interesting. What do you think it would feel like to get there? And they'll always just be like, man, it would be amazing. And then that allows me to transition into, can I give you some feedback from everything that we've talked about up to this point? And they're like, yeah, I'd love that. And I'll go super slow and I'll say, look, getting to know you and hearing your goals and what you have going on in life, I genuinely believe that this is an incredible fit for you. And here's why. But then the key is I call out personal attributes of them. So like, it's very clear that you want to grow, you want to develop, you want to be the best you can be. You want to realize that potential where you know that you're actually becoming great at life. And it's super obvious that you're ready to draw a line in the sand and actually make a change.
Mm.
And then they'll pause and almost all the time they'll go, thank you. Like, thank you for seeing that in me. What they're actually saying is like, holy shit, this person sees me for the first time.
Yeah.
They see that I'm tonnate, like that there's something special here.
Do you remember that Ed Milet talk that he gave? I mean, this was like 2015. He was on a speaking circuit tour and he was giving this talk. Basically, the whole talk was about like influence. But then the thesis of it was you want to show up as that person that like it's so rare to have somebody who kind of like believes in you more than yourself. And he was using this example of like sometimes like a grandparent. It's like they just like believe in you and then you're like, where are you getting all this belief? But they're like, oh yeah, when you're going to be the president when you grow up, like something like that. And I always say in sales, like when you can demonstrate to the person that you see something in them or you believe in them more than they believe in themselves, they almost you have so much influence over them because entrepreneurship and really trying to do anything that breaks out of like status quo is so lonely. Mm-hmm. And they're so used to nobody understanding what they do. to where when you actually see a bigger potential in what they see, when everybody else is saying that what they're trying to do is unrealistic, it's massively influential. Like I'll say stuff like this. This is another one of my, it's not really a spiffy line, but do I use this all the time in B2B? Yeah. I'll be like, look, so like in terms of getting to 150 grand a month, like that's not really going to be a problem. It comes down to 3 things. It's 1, 2, and 3. And to fix this, you'd have to do blah, 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 blah. But that's kind of an afterthought. What I'm really excited about for you is like, look, I have clients who are just like you, who are doing the same thing. I don't think they're any better than you at what you're doing, but they're just doing a couple of things differently on the lead and the acquisition and the sales side that allows them to be doing 500 grand a month in revenue. So like the first thing we got to work on for you is 1, 2, and 3. But I'm not really worried about that at all. What I'm really excited about when we work together is X, Y, and Z that's going to get you to 500, because I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be there. But that's what really lights me up. And I want to make sure you see that for yourself because you have that potential.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just like basically shattered their, I want to make 100 grand a month conservative goal. And now they're like, okay, this guy's so certain that what I thought was a problem is not going to be a problem. And we're talking about 500 grand a month. Does that make sense?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
When Taylor closed Sebastian and I back in the day, it was like a 20-minute call. And we got on and he was like, all right, what's the goal? And we were like, dude, we want to get to 50 grand a month. We were doing like 20. And he leaned into his mic and he's like, not that. And leaned back. We were like, what do you mean? And he goes, you can picture Taylor doing this. 100K a month. Lean back. And we both were, like, it was silent. And we were like, dude, that would be insane. Like, we're 20.
Yeah.
Dude, that would be insane. And he just goes, I'd be disappointed if you didn't do it. Lean back out. And we were like, I literally remember like trying to play it so cool. And I was like, what do you think that would look like? And he goes, pay me and I'll show you. And he kept doing that. He's like leaning it out. He's like, pay me and I'll show you. Ugh. And we sat there and Sebastian asked a question like, could you help us with their ads? And he just goes, easy. Like, dude, he must have like had a bet with Peyton or something about how few words he was going to say. He just goes, easy. And we sat there a bit longer. And I was like, well, I think this seems like the smart thing for us to do. And he goes, yeah, you'd be stupid not to. And we were just like, all right, we'll pay the invoice.
That's so good. That's so good. So back to, because you were mentioning the personal question thing. So another spiffy thing I say is, this is what I'm trying to get, because a lot of closers, they'll be like, and this is like, kills me. Like, so why is that important now? And you're just like, okay, like what answer did you expect to get? Buddy?
Yeah.
So
Because
what I say is, can I ask you a personal question? And they're like, yeah. And I'll be like, well, you obviously want to transition to starting this business. You're working corporate. You've been doing corporate for, what was it? 10 years? 10 years now. So, after all of that time, and I mean, you're making decent money. I mean, I guess like, why all of a sudden do you want to make this shift into entrepreneurship now though? Like what shifted for you? What happened? And so I use that all the time. And the how that breaks down is, can I ask you a personal question? Permission increases compliance. Compliance is basically the quality of the response that you get to the question that you ask.
Yeah.
So can I ask you a personal question? Permission increases compliance. Also, can I ask you a personal question? Presupposes you're going to get a personal answer. And then what I do is called permission context question. So the context was, you've been doing this behavior working in corporate for 10 years. And to most people's standards, that actually would seem pretty good because you're making decent money. But now all of a sudden, you want to do this other thing. So after all of that time, what shifted? What happened? And so what I'm doing is I'm pointing out that people could perceive that behavior is irregular. And I'm asking them to justify it to me, because the number one influential principle in Robert Cialdini's influence is the principle of consistency.
Yeah.
That people want to feel and appear consistent to others and themselves about all decisions. So the fact that they have to qualify and justify that behavior to me makes them give me a very quality response. And then I tack it on with that little phrase, what shifted, what happened? Because, and I got this from Tony Robbins, But he always says that like we want to make a big change in our life. It's not that like things slowly build up and then we're like, it's finally time to make the change. What usually happens is there's like a moment where it just shifts. And the common example that I don't know if he used this, but somebody used it, is like somebody wants to lose weight. And what happens is like one day they haven't gotten on the scale in 6 months. They get on the scale and they're finally over 200 pounds. And then that just like shifts things. Or their little kid hops on their lap and says, "Mommy, you feel squishy." Right. And that's like so it's always bringing them back to the moment of decision. And that's really the core why and urgency. If you ever get that on a sales call, that's when you got it, is when they have to describe like that moment of decision. And then when they do that and they're describing that to you, what happens is they have to, by the nature of describing it, bring back all of those emotions associated with that experience, which are the emotions of change.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
And more importantly, they're not just telling you, they're telling themselves. So I use that little framework: permission, context, question. And also I do it in a way that's like, I do it on purpose. It's like, you've been doing this for like, 10 years now? I mean, like, after all of that time, why all of a sudden do you want to shift now though? So you see how it's like when you ask it like that,
it's a genuine
opposed to like
curious.
throwing a dart.
Yeah.
Is more effective.
Yeah.
Whatever, for whatever reason that I cannot fully explain.
Well, there's a influence, Robert Cialdini. One of the other studies they did was like the because study.
Yeah.
The implied reason. And the way they did this study is they went to a college campus where there was a long line of people waiting for something. I think it was at the printer. And they had someone walk up to the front of the line and say, "Can I cut in front of you?" And the success rate was really low. It was like 25%. And then as soon as they added in the because, what was crazy about it is the reason didn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if they just said, "Because I need to," it was like a 90% compliance rate. So I think also what you're doing there is like by propping it as you're already kind of like in an ideal situation, it also like creates that because scenario of like, what is the reason? And it leads them to justifying the reason and looking for one. Because when you do well, why change now? It's like, what do you expect them to say other than, well, if I don't do it now, when? Because why not now? Like you just get these silly little responses because it sounds like a silly question when closers do it.
Another spiffy thing I like to say, this is the thing I have taught more than anything ever. You're going to know this probably word for word. Do you know what it is?
I'll see.
The financial objection framework. I've taught this more. I've said these words maybe more than any words in my entire life. So it goes, so basically after let's say you pitch the investment and you're like, "Yeah, it's just 10K. And they say, "Oh, okay, that sounds great. I just got to find the money." You say, "Hey, no problem. Totally get it." Outside of the money, like, and this is what we covered earlier, right? Outside of the money, just on the process, do you feel like those 3 things we covered, the 3 things we'd be implementing together, is exactly what you need to be able to get to X, Y, and Z outcome? And they're like, "Yes." Gotcha. So money aside, you're 100% in. And they're like, "Oh yeah, totally. Like, I really want to do this. It's just fun, finances, whatever." And they're saying it with like the certainty, not the waffling, not like, "I think so." If they say that, I say, I think so. Like, what's really going on, And I just try to make it fun, which when you mind read like that, when you can call out what's going on in here opposed to what they're saying, it actually diffuses all like the masks of the conversation and it makes it real. But anyways, let's just say like, no, I totally want to do it. And you're like, "Okay, great." So look, like most of our clients do it up front, but for certain clients who really want to do it like you, but finances are standing in the way, we break it up. So are you open to having an honest conversation financially, getting everything on the table so we can see if there's a way to make this work now, or at the very least, we can create a game plan for you to work towards this in the future. And they're like, "Yeah, cool. So let's just kind of run through your finances then." And then I get 3 key metrics. I say, "Cool. So what's your net incoming 30-day cash?" So in other words, what do you have coming in the next 30 days after you pay your personal expenses and what have you? And they're like, I'm going to have $3,000 left over." Okay, great. $3,000. "And what's your cash on hand right now exactly?" And they'll be like, "Nothing." And I'll be like, "Well, I'm not asking what you can spend right this second. I'm just asking, like, how much do you actually have access to right now, just so we have the landscape of what's available. And I might even throw in I don't even know if you could do this right now, but at the very least, again, I want to make sure I know what to tell you practically so that you know how to build towards this. And they'll be like, well, I have, because I want to know what's in their account. So they'll be like, oh, I have, 17 grand. Okay, great. And then what about credit? Oh, I got X, Y, and Z. Then through that, because you can see what I pitched the pay in full price, I have the payment plans at the back of my head. So now I know what's the best payment plan that they can do. And so I have that in my head of what I'm going to pitch. And then I'll be like, and you really want to do this, right? And they'll be like, yes. So that's because after digging on the finances a little bit, that kind of pushes them away. Yeah. So that's my way of pushing them back in. I'll be like, so you really want to do this, right? That's me pulling away. They're coming back in. And they'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, well, look, like in your situation, I don't think doing this all up front, I wouldn't even recommend or even allow you to do that. But I also don't think the best thing for you to do, based on what we talked about earlier, is to do nothing. So what I'd be willing to do for you is let you in for half down. That way you can implement X, implement Y, implement Z, to where when that next payment comes around 30 days down the road, you already have A, B, and C built out. You have tons of momentum to where it's going to feel almost like an afterthought. So if I was willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? And I'm telling you, I've closed more people with that language than anything in my entire life. Yeah. And I beg people to do that. I'm like, please use it. Just do it. It works. I teach that so often because it's basically double tie down. So I've isolated the finances is the only thing. I'm like, hey, you really want to do it for people like you who really want to do it. And it's just finances sitting in the way. We break it up. But in order to break it up, I got to know what's going on financially, whatever. I get permission to talk about financials. And people think, oh, that's like scummy. It's like, you got to realize to do this, they have to have told you twice that they 100% want to do this. It's the top priority. So by that logic, they're going to be willing to share with you whatever, as long as you're not weird about it. So then I get those 3 metrics. The first one I get is the net 30-day cash because it's less invasive. I want to get them in the pattern of asking a question. Yeah. So it's less invasive than cash on hand, but the cash on hand is the main one and credit. So I ask the easy one first, then the harder 2 second. Then I say, do you really want to do this? And I say, well, look, I don't even think you should do option 1, which is kind of like moral authority preeminence frame. But I also don't think you should do nothing. And then I gave them a 2-pay. But you see how when I give them a 2-pay, I basically made it seem so good. Yeah. And then I tack it on with the end with, if I'm willing to do that for you right now, if I'm willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? And what's so key about that is anytime you're making a concession, which going from a pay in full to a 2-pay would be a concession. So anytime you're making a concession, you want to ask for something in return. Now, more often than not, the best thing you can ask for is a decision now. But do you see how some people will go through the whole thing? I'll be like, oh man, you did it perfect. I'm like, great job. And then they get to the end, they're like, so we'll just give you a 2-pay. And then he's like, thanks. Well, that means a lot. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Yeah. So it's like, no. You got to say, if I'm willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? You're trading the terms for a decision now. Yeah. You close so many people with that. And if they waffle, you deal with it a little bit, then maybe you go down to a 3-pay and it's like, but look, if I'm going to do that for you, you also need to give me a case study. So I ask for another thing in return. Yeah. Or you ask for, I need you to get, I need you to get through this part of the process within 7 days. Yeah. Whatever. If they do it or not, whatever. And then it's again, so if I'm willing to do that for you, are you willing to move forward right now? That's the key phrase. And you can get so many, and a lot of times I'll hit that. Then they'll be like, discombobulated. And then it's like, hey man, what's going on? And they're like, is it just a little bit of nerves? Yeah. And then we go into the nerves. Yeah. And then we loop back around, deal with the fear a little bit, boom, right back in. But I've taught that framework I have used more than anything else in my entire life. Yeah. It's also just very strong leadership, because once someone's in that identity pattern of finances are tight, I'm feeling broke, and they're in that identity pattern, they're also probably in a behavior pattern of not checking their credit card balances, nervous to open up their bank account. And so they're also, when they're in that identity pattern, you have to break it down with them, because they probably don't know their numbers.
for themselves because they're in the broke identity pattern. If they did know their numbers, they would just look at you and say, dude, I can't afford this. Here's where my financials are at, but I do want to do it. Is there any way you could split it up into X?
Yeah.
So if they're not leading with, here's what I can afford, can you do that? Then it means that they're not solution aware. They're just in an identity pattern.
Yeah.
So you have to actually break it down, or they'll just stay in the, I can't afford this because I'm currently identifying as poor right now.
Yeah. And you know, the other funny thing about that is like sometimes I'll have them like look at their statements or whatever while we're on the call.
Mhm.
Not sharing their screen, but like, you know, I can tell that they're looking into it and they'll be like, they'll be like, and then they'll start to say something and I'll be like, John, it's worse than you thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're like, he's like, yeah, John. So you got to cut them off.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is
They'll start unraveling.
yes.
Yeah.
So you got to cut them off. It's like, look, like, let's just see what it is. I don't even know if you can do this, but we need to have an honest conversation because the worst thing I could do is not have clarity on that and then leave you in a place where you have nothing to work towards in the future.
Yeah.
So like, what's the damage?
Yeah. I'll usually be pretty teasy. Like when I see them be like, oh, like it's, okay, do you know roughly how much you have in your account? Yeah, probably like $5,000. All right, well, let's check real quick. And then it's the, oh, I'll usually stop and be like, dude, it sounds like we need to get making some more money.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah, dude, it's worse than I thought. Well, bro, what do we do? Do you like, should we just start working towards making more money? Yeah, dude, I need to make some more money.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
All right.
But there's like one of the mental models I have is like the end of a sales call is like a pressure pot with like those steam release valves at the call. And what elite closers
Just use humor to release.
yeah,
the
they know how to release pressure in the right time and in the right way. Closers that I see struggle, they haven't understood that concept yet.
Well, you know why? Is because they have too much of their identity wrapped up in getting the yes.
Yeah.
Like when you're really good, it just becomes fun.
Yeah.
And when it becomes fun, you can have fun
Uh-huh.
because you're obsessed with just like, how is this going to turn out? You know, like, and you know also that you're a great closer, regardless of what happens on this call.
Yeah.
And that's also what I say is like, you have to have a process to fall back on because people just get into fight or flight. I mean, I used to be the same way. I used to be just like, I mean, it was literally fight or flight. Oh yeah, flight. Let's book a follow-up call or fight. And I just like literally fight the person. That was like when I first started, I was like so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have like such a like I always tell people, don't expect to get the close when you drop the investment.
Mm-hmm.
Expect to get the close after you drop the investment, you handle 3 objections and then they buy it.
Yeah.
Like should be your expectation. And when you actually expect that, a lot of times you can guess what they're going to say anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're actually already prepared for it.
Yeah.
But you're not like mad when they say something other than a yes.
Yeah.
Because most people, that's what they're going to do.
But there's a lot of propaganda in the high ticket space these days of like, if you get an objection, it means that you're not a good closer. Like you missed
No, I mean,
something.
objections are just, it's funny is I do think, well, here's the thing, is that comes from the idea, which is true, that if you don't handle the front end of the call, the discovery, pitch, your rapport, all this stuff, right? Your connection with somebody, how deep you go, the level of trust that's built, the level of insight you give, all of that will result in weaker or no objections.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So like we've all had instances where you're reviewing a call or like a closer comes to a group call and they'll be like, they said this. And I'll be like, well, buddy, if they said that, like you probably tossed the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I did the great. No, I'm like, you tossed the great, the whole call sucked. But that being said, there's not enough emphasis that like you do need to be good at the close.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's not that hard. You'd probably agree with this. It's not that hard to get people to where they can do discovery correctly. They can pitch correctly.
For sure.
It's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. You say the same thing almost on every call.
Yeah.
What's harder is the objections, a little bit of art, a little bit of the commitment, You know, you got to have the grit. And the thing is too, is when you're taking 6 or 7 calls a day, your brain optimizes for expending the least amount of energy and avoiding the most amount of conflict.
Yeah.
Right. Because conflict is bad and more energy.
Mhm.
So you trick yourself into follow-ups.
For sure.
Whereas every time I was in a rut, I realized that I needed to increase, like, this is how I thought about it for whatever weird reason. It's like, I needed to increase my energy expenditure at the close from like an 80 to like a 110.
Mhm.
Like I needed to like overcorrect a little bit and just be like, I needed to burn a couple of deals by going too hard.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I can find equilibrium again because I had slid down too far
Yeah.
below equilibrium. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. It's actually the biggest like rut fixer that I have when I'm leading teams is for the next 5 calls, you're not allowed to get off the call until you get a yes or a no.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they're going to say no and hang up before you're willing to end the call.
Yep.
And almost always what'll happen is even if they don't close the next call, they'll watch themselves like fight for it and be like, oh, this is what it feels like. Going back to the having fun part, so much of that is going to be built by how the sales manager or business owner trains and leads and runs the team. Like if you're a business owner or sales manager where like every sales meeting is hard ass, what are the numbers, discipline, and you're not leading the team, having fun, they'll carry that into calls.
Right. Yeah.
Like, dude, I've had so many times where like I'd pull up a call, we'd watch the first 6 minutes, and I would just stop and be like, dude, are you drunk? Like, what is this? And like just rip on the closer and tease the shit out of them. Cause it's like so bad, it's like not even worth reviewing. It just becomes like the funniest thing. And everybody teases the closer. But in a way, them getting teased about it is like, yeah, I need to loosen up. I need to take a deep breath. Cause like, yeah, that was really bad. That was rough. And so much of that is built by the sales manager.
Yeah. All right. That's the pod.
All right, bro.